Okay, now we're going to start off with the forward angle. Now this is actually called a reverse triangle or the female triangle. But over the years I found a lot of confusion with those names. So now to avoid that we simply call it the forward angle. Now here I'm just showing one way that you could apply this. What we're doing here is parrying, blocking, and stepping to the outside. We don't want to stay fighting with our opponent toe to toe. We want to move offline. Now when you're working with your partner, it's important that you are close enough that he could actually hit you if you didn't block. It doesn't do your training any good if he's too far away and wouldn't hit you anyway. Also notice how far I'm stepping in. You want to be able to counter immediately. Now most people will step like this when starting out. It just seems to be the natural way for people to step. It's wrong for this application. You can step this way, but it's a little more advanced and you have to do a follow-up technique immediately. Otherwise, as you notice, I'm turning my back to my opponent, which puts me in a dangerous position. Now, as you get better with your footwork, you can start adding your sticks. It doesn't matter what strike that you're using. Just practice some of your strikes as you're stepping. The lob tick is a through strike, striking all the way through your opponent. The witik is a bounce back or half strike, meaning it hits and then bounces back to you. You can do the same thing using the blade. Remember, in the Filipino martial arts, the weapon is an extension of the hand. The techniques will stay the same, sometimes with slight modification. Reverse angle. Now here again, in traditional FMA, this is a forward or male triangle. This step is typically used to avoid an oncoming attack, but it can be used as a counter also.
Oh, I need to.
Now for 6-point stepping, we're using the forward angle and the reverse angle together. And if you notice here, we're also adding some lateral footwork. Now the hourglass stepping starts to be a little more fun than some of the other ones. When you start off, you do a little skip step and then cut across, and then you're moving to the rear. So you're going forward and you're going backwards. Notice how I'm picking my foot up. You want to pick your feet up high as you're stepping. Don't shuffle them along the ground. When you are in a combat situation or when you start moving quicker, you won't do the step as technical as you are here. So it's better to train picking the foot up because it's going to change when you're in a stress situation. It's just like when you're practicing punches or kicks. When you train or practice, you try to make them as perfect as you can. But when you spar or in a fight, everything starts moving quicker, the adrenaline's pumping, your technique gets sloppy. Now, if you notice, the step doesn't only go in one direction. You can change it back and forth, starting to the left or starting to the right. It doesn't matter. While you're doing the stepping, you're going to keep mixing it up, changing direction. Here again, as you get more comfortable with the step, you can start adding your weapons into the training. Now this is our basic forward angle from earlier, but then we're going to step out to move away from our opponent. If you watch closely, I angle out and then swing my body to the outside, and then step at a 45 and then swing back. So I end up back in the same position where I started. Now a little bit of an advanced and better way to do this is to do a shuffle or replacement step first. If you watch right here, my right foot will skip back to where my left is, replacing it as my left foot angles forward, and then I swing out. Now I'll show you this with a partner in a minute so you'll get a better understanding of what we're doing. Now this pad represents your opponent. So if you notice, I'm stepping at a 45-degree angle to the side of him and then stepping out, away, to give myself some space. Here I am shuffling or adding the replacement step before I angle off to the side of my opponent. Don't try this one until you get the first part down. This gets a little bit tricky. Okay. Now here's one way that you might use this. Notice how she angles off and then pushes her opponent away. You could also use a punch as you slip out to the side. Either way, what we're trying to do is give ourselves some breathing room. Now here we touch on our linear or straight line stepping. We're simply going to shuffle forward and shuffle back. This is the most common type of stepping that people use. You can also shuffle side to side. Notice that the foot on the side of the direction you want to go is the one that steps first. If you want to go to the left foot moves first. You want to go to the right foot moves first. It doesn't matter if it's in the front or the rear. You don't want to cross your feet over in front of each other. Now this step back might be a little tricky at first because we're adding two types of footwork together, the angle and the lateral movement. Here I angle back and my left foot shuffles to the side. As we finish, we do our side stepping back to the beginning. So my lead foot angles back, I shuffle to the side, and then angle forward or step forward. This will make more sense in a minute when I add the punch. Now here again we have a basic and an advanced way of doing this. You can step back and shuffle forward in between each station, or you can simply skip or shuffle side to side as we did on the first part when we get to the end. You can do 3, 5, 10. It doesn't matter how many you do. I just set up 3 here for the camera. Now this might make a little more sense. This is one way you can do it, is you slide back to evade the attack, and then you shoot forward and throw a counter attack. Now here you can be doing a slip if your opponent attacks you, or you can just be moving to keep him off guard and then shoot in and throw the punch of your own. Now, even though I said earlier that we don't cross our feet over in front of each other, that's for fighting. This is a drill. This just helps with your coordination and your footwork. Also with your hip movement, because you're going to put a lot of hip movement into this when you're doing it. I believe they do this a lot in soccer and football type of drills.